Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll go through some of the feedback, some of the comments from yesterday's video, and I'll give my opinions about some of the topics that were discussed there. Today, again, coming to you from my backyard. I'm back again in the Madrid community, trying to adapt to life here again. Not easy when you come back from a country like Portugal where you've been on the coast, been relaxing, different weather conditions of course, and you come back to Madrid. It's hot, it's dry, and I'm a little bit lethargic at the moment. I think I've got a bit of post-vacational depression. Even though I wasn't really on vacations, I worked throughout the month of July and August. Didn't really take a holiday this year. I went away, but as you guys know, I was working every day, putting these videos out, and I was also giving classes every day from Portugal. So it's been a pretty hard couple of months from a work point of view, but when you come back to Madrid, the situation in this country at the moment is not overly positive. Kids are going back to school, a little bit anxious about that, as lots of parents are, and as I said, a little bit tired, a little bit lethargic in recent days. Now I apologize if there is any background noise in this video. I've got neighbors on this side talking, neighbors on that side talking. I can also hear neighbors behind me talking. Of course, it's Sunday afternoon, the weather is good, people are outside, people are having a swim, they're having a barbecue, they have family around. A typical Sunday in this part of Madrid. And I'm going to be honest, the neighbors here are not too bad. Things have calmed down a lot since we first moved in. The first few years here, getting used to the neighbors was a bit of a nightmare, especially this guy that lives behind me over here. He was a real pain in the neck. He was always knocking on the door telling you to do things. He would pop his head over the fence behind me there and say that we should do this and that. He complained about the garden, that the leaves from the trees were going into his garden and that was annoying him. He got into a spat with the neighbor that I have on this side, and that turned ugly. There were threats, abusive language, but he's calmed down now. He's not as aggressive as he used to be. I suppose that's what happens when you start to get a bit older. You're not as feisty as you once were. But the first few years here were problematic. We had another neighbor just up here who reported about 60 houses for illegal building activity, so we had to go through that process as well. Lots of people were doing building works when we first moved in, and they didn't ask for the licenses or the permissions to get those works done. And of course, this one neighbor took advantage of that and decided to report 50 or 60 different houses. So he wasn't very popular, but he has since left the area. So things have calmed down a little bit. Now, I mentioned the word mask in yesterday's video, and of course that led to lots and lots of comments about masks. Lots of people still saying that we don't need to wear them. People can't understand why we have to wear them in Spain, so there's still a lot of people angry on the topic of masks. And as you guys know, I was in Portugal over the summer months, and mask wearing there is not compulsory in the street. If you go into a business, of course, you have to wear a mask. If you go to a butcher's, if you go to the supermarket, of course, you have to wear a mask. So in that sense, it's no different, but you don't have to wear a mask when you are walking down the street. Some people do, but the majority of people don't. And even with the new restrictions that have come into place in Portugal, or are going to come into place in Portugal as of the 15th of this month, mask wearing is not going to be compulsory at all times like it is in Spain at the moment. And that's one of the big differences that I noticed. You cross the border, you go from a small Portuguese town where everything seems quite normal, people are walking down the street without a mask on, and you cross the border and the first thing you see is everybody in the street with a mask on. So a bit of difference between the two countries in that regard. And you can't really argue that the health situation is worse in that Spanish border town, and it's not as bad if you cross the border 5 or 10 kilometers away. So the politics on wearing masks different in those two countries. And I'm going to be honest, I don't enjoy wearing a mask if I'm walking down the street here in Spain, but as we know, it is the law, and you can get in trouble if the police see you without a mask. I mentioned yesterday that one person was sent to jail in Galicia because he refused to wear a mask, and that led to an altercation with the police, who ended up arresting him and putting him in jail. Now, this man did apparently have a criminal record. The police knew who he was, and he is apparently a bit of a troublemaker, but his refusal to wear a mask when taking his kid to school led to him getting into that situation. And there are other reports about people being fined for not wearing a mask in Spain. But as I said, you just have to mention the word mask and the debate is huge. Now, I read another comment saying that I block people that don't have the same opinion as me. That's not true. I have blocked people on this channel before. If you're not familiar with what that means, it just means that people can't leave comments in the comment section. You block them from leaving comments. And some of the reasons why I have blocked people in the past is basically because they insult other people. They insult people that don't agree with what they have to say, and sometimes their comments turn nasty. I've seen people leave comments with a certain point of view, then they repeat the comments day after day after day, and when people don't pay them any attention, they start to get a little bit angry. They start to get angry with me because I don't acknowledge what they have to say. They try to convince me to believe them, and sometimes that behavior becomes a bit obsessive, and I need to block them from leaving comments on the channel. And I remember blocking somebody recently because he insulted a person's family and children, and the comments that he left were completely out of line. So that is why people might get blocked in the comment section. Not because you have an alternative point of view, not because you don't believe mainstream media, but if you start to insult people and leave aggressive comments, then you might end up getting your comments blocked. And still, there's lots of comments, lots of people pushing the opinion that this is nothing worse than the flu. I get at least 20 or 25 comments on every video, people pushing this agenda that the current situation is no more than a bad flu. Now, I don't know about you, but I had a bad case of the flu a few years ago, and I was bedridden for about 10 days, and it was an extremely uncomfortable experience, and I don't want to have to go through that again. I, like many people, believe that health is one of the most important things that we have. If we're not healthy, we can't function properly. We can't work if we're in hospital. We can't work if we're bedridden. And let's be honest, people don't want to get sick and take the chance. And this whole situation that we have at the moment is a new situation. There's no clear answers. There's no clear answers coming from a science point of view. There's no clear answers coming from a political point of view. There's no easy way to deal with the situation. It'd be great if there was a clear plan. It'd be great if politicians could come out and tell us what the situation is going to be like next week, next month, next year, 2 years' time, but they don't know. Nobody knows, and this is one of the main problems. The leaders or politicians that we have just don't have the answers that are going to satisfy the majority of people. Lots and lots of the news is contradicting. We have that problem every day that we read different stories, different opinions. Everybody seems to have an opinion. Everybody seems to have an idea, and it's very, very confusing at the moment. I've mentioned it before on this channel. My objective is not to lead people in any one direction. My objective is to keep people up to date on what's happening in this country and help people take decisions on what's being reported in the press, what politicians are saying, what the health experts in Spain are saying, and report on some of the possible scenarios that could affect our lives living here in this country. Every now and again I'm going to throw in my opinion about something, but I'm not going to force my opinion down people's throats. I would love to have more uplifting news to talk about, but unfortunately there's not a lot out there at the moment, and I'd love to do other types of videos as well, but as we know, it's not as easy as it once was to travel around this country. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.